Welcome to the Self-Sufficiency channel with Johnny Lee. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you find this content valuable to your life. Today, let me talk to you about something that exposes modern Christianity in a way that is painful but necessary. Because it's one thing to talk about faith in a safe country. It's one thing to worship in air conditioning. It's one thing to post Bible verses, wear a cross chain, and argue online about how holy you are. But it is another thing entirely to be a Christian in places where your faith can get you hunted, mutilated, and killed. And one of the countries where this has been happening is Nigeria. Now, I want to be clear. This message is not a cheap shot. It's not me mocking dead Christians. This is me confronting the hypocrisy of the comfortable Christian who loves the idea of persecution but would never live it. Because whenever stories come out about Christians being slaughtered, you know what I see from Western Christians? I see the same ritual. They post about it. They share it. They say, it's so sad. They write praying hands emojis. They say, at least they're in heaven. And then they go right back to their safe, comfortable life. And I have to ask a question that nobody wants to ask out loud. If persecution is such a blessing, why do you only want it to happen to somebody else? Because your own Bible says there is a reward for persecution. Your own Bible glorifies martyrdom. Your own Bible says, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness. Your own Bible says to take up your cross. So if you really believe what you preach, if heaven is real and if being with Jesus is the highest joy, then why are you clinging to your life down here like it's the only thing you have? Let's be honest. The way modern Western Christians respond to persecution in places like Nigeria exposes what they truly believe. Because you are not responding like people who are confident in divine protection. You are responding like people who know deep down there is no divine protection. You are responding like people who know the world is dangerous, random, and brutal, and that you could die like anyone else. You just hope it never happens to you. That's what this really is. Let's start with the simplest problem here. Christians love to tell the world that God is loving, God is present, God answers prayers, God protects his people. Okay, then explain Nigeria. Explain innocent people who believe in Jesus being slaughtered, burned, kidnapped, destroyed, and terrorized. Where is the protection? And please don't give me the cheap answer that religious people always give. Do not tell me God works in mysterious ways. Do not tell me they got their reward in heaven. And please do not tell me this life is temporary. Because if the reward is heaven, then why is any of this evil at all? Think about that for a second. If death is a promotion, then murder becomes a shortcut to paradise. If slaughter is just going home, then suffering becomes a spiritual blessing. And that is where Christianity becomes morally twisted. Because your theology allows you to look at real human horror and call it God's plan. You don't have to solve it, you just have to spiritualize it. But here's the reality. If your God is watching his followers be murdered and doing nothing, then one of two things is true. Either he is not there, or he is there, and he does not care enough to intervene. And neither option supports the comforting story you tell yourself in church every Sunday. Now let's talk about the sentence Christians love to use from a safe distance. You've heard it before. I'll pray for them. Let me translate that into plain language. What that usually means is, I want to feel like I did something without doing anything. I want to feel righteous without risking anything. I want the emotional reward of compassion without the cost of sacrifice. Because what is prayer? If you truly believe God answers prayer, prayer should be an emergency hotline. So why does nothing change? How many massacres does it take before you admit prayer is not a solution? And here is the darker truth. Many Christians do not even pray because they believe it will change anything. They pray because it protects them from guilt. Prayer is often used as a moral exit door. It allows you to witness suffering and walk away feeling clean. And that's why I'll pray for them has become a religious way of doing nothing. Now let's talk about how Western Christians redefine persecution. In the West, Christians will call it persecution if somebody disagrees with them online, somebody criticizes their beliefs, somebody tells them to keep religion out of politics, somebody says, happy holidays. They will scream, we are being persecuted. Meanwhile, Christians in places like Nigeria are being slaughtered. So when Western Christians act like victims, it's insulting. You're not being persecuted. You're not being inconvenienced. You are being challenged. You are losing cultural dominance. That's not persecution. That's life. And you only call it persecution because you are not used to not being the center of attention. Now we get to the question that exposes everything. If you truly believe your Bible, then martyrdom is a fast track to glory. Your Bible teaches that those who suffer for Christ are blessed. Your Bible says to rejoice when you are persecuted. Your Bible says there is a crown waiting. So here's my question. Why are you not volunteering? If you really believe there is an eternal reward, why are you clinging to comfort? Why are you clinging to safety? Why are you clinging to your little suburban life? Why aren't churches organizing groups of missionaries to go straight into the most dangerous regions and preach boldly? Why aren't pastors leading the way? Why isn't there a line of Christians saying, send me. If I die, I die. I want my reward. You know why. Because deep down you do not believe it the way you claim you believe it. There is no angel on standby. You know if you go into certain regions, you can be killed, and that's the end. So you stay where it's safe, and you call that faith. You stay in a country where Christianity is socially protected, and you cosplay bravery. It's easy to be bold where you are safe. Anyone can be on fire for Jesus where there's no real fire. Let's talk about this statement from earlier. At least they're in heaven. That sentence sounds loving, but it's actually disturbing because it turns tragedy into something acceptable. It makes slaughter feel like a spiritual victory instead of moral outrage. And it reveals the hidden sickness inside religion. Religion makes you tolerate what you should never tolerate. It teaches you to accept what you should fight against. And it teaches you to glorify suffering as if suffering itself is noble. But a God who requires suffering to prove loyalty is not a loving father. That's an authoritarian ruler. And people who defend that are not living in truth. They are living in a coping mechanism. So here's what all of this reveals. It reveals that modern Christianity is not actually built on truth. It's built on comfort. It reveals that Western Christianity is not built on sacrifice. It's built on safety. It reveals that people do not love Jesus as much as they claim they do. They love the identity, the community, the tradition, the moral superiority. But when it comes time to bleed, when it comes time to risk everything, most people disappear. And that is why I say what I say. The world is not run by goodness. It is run by self-interest, even inside religion. People will praise martyrs from the safety of a couch, but they themselves will not become martyrs. People will talk about heaven, but they will fight to stay alive right here on earth. People will call suffering holy, but only when they are not the ones doing the suffering. That hypocrisy is the truth. And here is where the self-sufficiency comes in. Self-sufficiency is not about being edgy or hateful. It is about looking at reality without the religious filters. The reality is the world is dangerous. Human beings are violent. Belief does not stop brutality. And if you are waiting for God to intervene to stop suffering, history tells you it's not coming. And that is why your life must be built on what is real, not what is comforting, not what is traditional, not what is preached, what is real. And what is real is this: people suffer, people die, people get slaughtered, and the same people who talk the loudest about faith are often the least willing to pay the cost of what they claim to believe. So do not tell me your religion is the answer when your God watches your own people get butchered. Don't tell me your religion is saving humanity when it cannot even protect its own. And do not tell me you are brave when your only bravery exists in safe places. Remember, as I always say, life is suffering, death is mercy. No one is coming to save you, so save yourself. Until next time.